Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to start learning coordinate geometry. Coordinate geometry is the third chapter for class 9th, but this was introduced in class 8 in the chapter Introduction to Graphs. Now, when we talk about coordinate geometry, it is a very important because in class 9th, it is a very short chapter, but 10th onwards, it is going to take a bigger form, right? You will see that how different things will actually come into place in this chapter. So understanding the basics in class 9th is very important. And moreover, you will see that after this chapter, we have linear equations in two variables. That chapter is also based on coordinate geometry up to an extent. Okay, so let's start. Now, what you can see on the screen is two lines, right? This is just like your number line which you had done in earlier primary classes. The horizontal line is just a simple number line where now I will mark the numbers. Okay. The intersection of the two lines, this point, this is marked as O, also called as origin. Okay. I will be writing everything in detail. Now, the horizontal line that you can see, the horizontal line, the sleeping line, right, that you can see, it is called as x-axis. The horizontal is always x-axis, and when we are moving right, it is the positive number. So it is written x under this arrow. And when we are moving left on the same horizontal line, it is the negative numbers and it is written by x dash. Okay. Now, the vertical line or the standing line, okay, that is actually the y-axis. I'm writing y-axis on top, but we don't write x-axis or y-axis, but instead we just write y, and down below towards the down arrow, we write y dash. Because when we are talking about the right side of the horizontal line, that is positive, and similarly, the upside of the vertical line is also positive. Now, we will write the numbers. This is after 0, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it can keep on going. Because as you can see, I have put the arrow. Okay. It is always supposed to be like this. It's not that I have put, but it is always supposed to be like this because it means what we are having, we can extend it to up to an infinite length, whichever we need. Okay. Now, similarly, going on the left. After 0, it is -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and we can keep on going as per the requirement. So similar is the thing with the vertical line also, that is y-axis. So going up 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, when we come down, it is -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and so on. So yes, over here, what I had made 5 points in all the 4 directions, but it is not necessary that it has to be like that. For example, if I am making one over here, and if it is having just 2 points, 1, 2, and this is -1, -2, and -3, this is also absolutely fine because it is about the usage, what we want to draw on the Cartesian plane on these 4 lines, that actually depends how much we need. So it is not necessary that it has to be equal. However, what is necessary to be equal is the gaps between the numbers. When I'm saying the gaps, I'm talking about this distance. They are always supposed to be equidistant. Okay. You will be drawing either on your ruled lines or on your graph paper, right? So there are boxes when we are talking about the graph paper. The graph paper is divided into blocks, and in each block there are minute squares, right? Like this. So what I'm saying is when you are plotting it on a graph paper, actually, you have to draw it. This is your x and y. So the next point should have been over here. Like this is your 1, this is your 2, such that they are always equidistant. They always have to be equal gaps. Whether in your positive direction or the negative direction, they have to be equal gaps. Okay. This is the basic format of your coordinate geometry. Now, what do we call this? I'm going to introduce all the terms now. Okay, so the terms are basically the four lines that we have drawn over here. They are called as Cartesian plane. Cartesian plane. Together, everything that you can see on this screen, all the four lines that you can see in all the four directions, together along with the gaps. So I just highlight that this whole area, this is called as Cartesian plane. Okay. And it has been divided into four parts. You can see the four compartments being created. They are called as quadrants. Sorry, it's called quadrants. Okay, like we have quarters. Quarter is also means 1/4. Similarly, that word quad has actually given rise to another word which is quadrant. So when your whole plane, that is the plane surface, is being divided into four equal parts, that is called as quadrant. Now, when we talk about quadrants, we always move in anti-clockwise direction. Do remember that. It is very important to remember anti-clockwise direction, and this one is your first quadrant. Okay, this is the second, third, and then this is the fourth one. Okay, so now we have seen that the whole Cartesian plane got divided into four quadrants, right? Now, when we are talking about the four quadrants, focus on that what is positive, what is negative in each of the quadrants. Now, starting with the first quadrant, okay? In the first quadrant, you can see that X is also positive and Y is also positive. So that means when we are talking about the first quadrant, everything is positive. Okay, positive, positive. I'm writing positive, positive, not just for generally, but the first positive resembles X and the second positive denotes Y. Because soon we are going to learn about the coordinate. After all, we are doing coordinate geometry, right? So whenever we are writing about the coordinate, the first component is always X. The second component is always Y. In the first quadrant, we can see that both are positive. So I have written positive, positive, right? Now, moving on to the second quadrant in the anti-clockwise direction. Now, what we can see, this is negative, right? Whereas Y is positive. So what do we get? We get negative, comma, positive. The first negative denotes X and the second positive denotes Y. It is always X, comma, Y. Now, moving on with the third quadrant. In the third quadrant, we can see X is again negative and Y is negative as well, right? So what do we have? Negative, negative. This is what we get. So both X and Y are negative in the third quadrant, right? Now moving on with the last one. That is the fourth quadrant. So X is positive, Y is negative, right? What do we get? Positive, comma, negative. This is X and Y. So in the four quadrants, what we saw? We saw that all the four quadrants have different signs with respect to each other. In the first quadrant, X and Y both are positive. In the second quadrant, moving on with the anti-clockwise direction, X is negative, Y is positive. Now, coming down in the third quadrant, both X and Y are negative. Moving towards the right, that is the fourth quadrant, X is positive, Y is negative. This thing is fixed. Whichever portion you do, whichever year you do, whichever chapter you do, Cartesian plane is fixed, the notation is fixed, the pattern is fixed. What is going to change is only that which point do you mark. Okay. Now, for example, if I am marking a point, I'll mark a point in this Cartesian plane over here. Let it be this one. Okay. The point that I'm just marking with pink, right? Now, how to understand what is actually the coordinate of this point, right? what do? I'll drag a line coming down and similarly horizontally. Okay, I drag the point vertically down and horizontally left. What did I see? That it is pointing towards 2 on the x-axis and 3 on the y-axis. So what are the coordinates for this point? It comes out to be 2, 3 because the point had two points on the x and 3 points on the y. And as I told, whenever we write a coordinate, the first component is always x, the second component is always y. Okay. Now, similarly, let's see another one. Okay. Now, for example, if I have a point over here, the red one you can see, I am dragging it vertically up and towards the right. So, how will we write? We will write x component first, which is -4. And then y component, which is -2. Right? So, this is about the quadrants. Okay. Then, it is not something that a point can always be marked in the space in the plane only, and they can't be marked on the axis. They can be. Okay. The point can exist on the axis. Now, whenever there is a point on the x-axis, if you see what is happening, whenever a point is on the x-axis, any point on the x-axis, your y is 0. This is 0, right? So y is 0. Now, for example, if I talk about a point on the x-axis, right? Let's say we are talking about this point, right? So what are going to be the coordinates for this one? The value of x is 4, but the value for y is going to be 0. This becomes 4, 0 because it is lying on the x-axis. So whether it is in a negative direction, whether it is in a positive direction, any point on the x-axis, your y component will always be 0. Okay. Similarly, if I talk about this one, on the negative side of y, the coordinates become -1, 0. Okay. Now, just try to think what will happen if a point exists on the y-axis, right? What will happen? If a point is on the y-axis, let's say you're talking about this point down under on the negative side. Okay. The coordinates for this point are going to be, what will happen? We are talking about y-axis, right? So y-axis means x is 0 anywhere on the y-axis. Okay. So when x is 0, the coordinate will become 0, -5. And whenever we have x as 0, that means it is actually on the y-axis, right? And when a point is lying either on the x-axis or on the y-axis, they do not belong to any quadrants, but to the respective axis. Okay. You will see plenty of such questions causing confusion amongst children that which quadrant do they exist in. For example, if there is a point which is say 7, 0. Okay, 7, 0, right? So which quadrant does it exist in? There will be various options, and then there will be another option for x-axis and y-axis. Okay, the answer is 7, 0 will lie on the x-axis. Why? Because y component is 0 over there, and y component is 0 only on the x-axis. Okay. So what you can see on the screen, lots of information, do process that, and it is highly important. Okay. Now, I said important terms, though I have already introduced you in the previous slide, but let's go through them once again. Okay. Now, the first one, Cartesian plane. We saw that when we had made a grid of the x-axis and the y-axis, the total area around them is called as Cartesian plane, right? Then we saw about quadrants also. The four partitions the Cartesian plane had made, they are called as quadrants. So there are always 4 quadrants, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'll just mark them over here as well. 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the anti-clockwise direction. Okay. Then coordinate. Any point that exists in the Cartesian plane has what coordinates? That is x component, y component, right? So coordinate is x comma y. It can have various values. For example, 2 comma 3. It can have 0 comma 5. It can have minus 1 comma 2. So there is, and okay, one more thing. Whenever we are talking about coordinates, it is not confined to integers. It can have decimal values. It can have any real values in plane. Okay. As of now, you will deal with majorly only either integers or one decimal place. But in practicality, in real world, coordinate means it can be anything with respect to any real quantity. Okay. Yes, it can be unreal also, but as of now, let's confine to real numbers. Okay. Then origin. What was origin? Origin was where the lines of x-axis and y-axis were intersecting. This point, the intersection point, which we marked as O, is called as origin, right? Along with that, what are the coordinates? It's always 0, 0. Because our x starts from here in the right direction, in the left direction. Our y starts from here, upward and downward also. Okay. Then there are two new words that you are seeing over here, abscissa and ordinate. What is abscissa? Abscissa is your x component. Okay. It is a technical name for the x component, and ordinate is the technical name for your y component. Now, for example, if I'm writing a coordinate 2, 3. So what is your abscissa and what is your ordinate? Abscissa is 2 and ordinate is 3. So any coordinate, your x component is always your abscissa. Any coordinate, your y component is always the ordinate. Okay. Now, let's do a question. This question I have picked up on the grounds of NCERT, right? It is given in the exercise 3.2, question number 2, and I have made it on that pattern. Okay. Now, the question says over here, write the coordinates of the points marked with letters. You can see a well-labeled Cartesian plane over here, and there are various points which I have marked in terms of A, B, C, D till I, right? So now what we need to do, we need to write their coordinates. So let's start doing this together. Okay. First, A. A is the point over here. Okay. What we can see while doing it, you can zoom and then quickly just think the coordinate in your mind before I speak or write. Okay. The coordinates for 3, it is lying on the x-axis. Let me write x, x dash, y, and y dash. Okay. So this point A is lying on the x-axis. So it is lying at the 3 point. What is the y value on the x-axis? It is supposed to be 0. So the coordinate for A comes out to be 3, 0. Now, B is lying adjacent to it, few points away over here, right? It is at 6. So quickly think the coordinates for B. 6, 0, because again it is lying on the x-axis, right? Next, C. C is, first of all, which quadrant it exists in? C exists in the first quadrant, right? This is your first quadrant. So now what are the coordinates for C? There are dotted lines already connecting. So first we are going to write 8 and then 4. We always write x first, we always write y next. So the coordinates for C is 8, 4. Okay, next, D. Which quadrant is it? It is your second quadrant, right? Now talking about the points for D. The coordinate for D is -6 and 4. Because we can see D is pointing to the negative side of x and positive side of y. Okay. Next, E. E is again lying on the x-axis, right? So quickly think your coordinates for E. It is -5 and 0. Okay. Next, F. Which quadrant is it? It is third quadrant. We are moving in anti-clockwise direction, right? F. So what are the coordinates for F? It is -5, -4. Guys, please be careful. It is not just the first time, but every year children have been confusing. They always write, many a times they write y component first and then they write x component. Do not commit that mistake. It is going to be x component first and then the y component. Okay. Then next is G. G is here. So what is the x component for G? It is 3. And what is the y component for G? -5. It is lying in which quadrant? Fourth quadrant. This is fourth quadrant. Okay. Next, H. Where is H? Okay. H is here on the y-axis. So what are the coordinates for H? It is 0, -6 because it is lying on the y-axis. Remember, a point lying on y-axis has x component as 0. Okay. Last, I. Again, the fourth quadrant, right? The coordinate for I is 6, -6. X is positive, Y is negative. So in this video, we got introduced to coordinate geometry. We understood all the technical terms with respect to coordinate geometry, and we did a question based on NCERT. Guys, keep a watch on this channel. Very soon, I'm going to release a video wherein I will be doing all the questions with respect to coordinate geometry from NCERT exemplar. And when we are talking about this chapter, each and every question from NCERT exemplar, especially the MCQs, they are super important because you will see that in your upcoming periodics and midterms, you will get questions only from exemplar. 90% questions of this chapter is from exemplar, and this I'm talking with respect to all the schools. Okay, so do keep a watch, and soon I will be solving each and every question. Happy learning.